We are honoring the Father through the application of his word. And I think a lot of us would absent ourselves from that because it doesn't fit in American Christianity.
As homeschool moms, oftentimes we are involved in other things. It's not just homeschooling. Sometimes it's just homeschooling. And I hate even using the word just because
right.
It's not just, you're just homeschooling your kids. You're just parenting your kids. I don't mean it like that at all. I mean, parenting and homeschooling is a huge, huge investment in the lives of our families. You talked a few minutes ago about leading a meaningful life, living our lives for the purposes of God's glory. And as Christians, that's what we should be doing. We need to be purposeful in the way that we're living our lives. And so right now for you and I, Meeke, that includes homeschooling our kids. For those listening, for the most part, for those who homeschool, that means homeschooling their kids. And if you're not homeschooling your kids, we have a lot of parents who listen to this podcast. They don't homeschool because they can't for some, for one reason or another. We have people who listen in other countries where it's illegal to homeschool, but they have the heart to homeschool and disciple their kids. So they listen to the podcast because they want to know how to do that. And we all have to be living our lives in a way that is intentional and meaningful. And Meeke, I know that that is your heart's desire. Talk about why, as Christians, it's not enough to just go to church on Sunday morning, sit in the pew or the chairs that hook onto each other now that most churches have. I have a church pew in my living room. Well, you know that. You've been in my living room.
I know that. It's
I love
so
my
cool.
church pew.
So cool.
But why is it not enough to just sit in church on a Sunday morning, take it all in, maybe go on a Wednesday night, take it all in, and then not have any other purpose in our life other than being served by others? Why do we need to strive to live a meaningful life?
And, the Lord has invited us to such a rich life. I think that there are people who have this idea that we are redeemed by the Lord. And so then that means that we will spend eternity with him. And so their immediate focus is heaven onward. It's like when we get to eternity and then forever from there, not recognizing that the Lord has saved us and then not just like, okay, now you're with him. Right. It is for many of us, he saves us and invites us to live for his glory right now, like not just living for the sweet by and by, right? We have been invited to tell the world what God is like. We have been invited to partner with him, which is it's so humbling to think that God would use us in any way to reach people, to tell people, what he's like, what he requires, how he forgives, how he redeems. And we forfeit that when we think that life is just about us being saved. Yes, of course, we have been reconciled to the Father, but the Bible teaches that we've also been given the ministry of reconciliation. So that means now we have to take this good news that we have received and we have to share that with the world. Amen. Well, I think what so many people get wrong is that in that call for making disciples and in that call of evangelism is a lived evangelism, right? That we are living a life that the Lord then through that life is able to win people to himself. And so that means that we are serving one another. That means that we are serving our kids. We are honoring the Father through the application of his word. And I think a lot of us would absent ourselves from that because it doesn't fit in American Christianity. Right. You say that. We have this idea of Sunday and then brunch and then see you again next Sunday. Yeah. And you don't see that in the scriptures. You see a body life in the scriptures. You see a rubbing up against one another to the point that you've got to forgive one another. You've got to bear with one another. You've got to love one another and serve and weep and rejoice with one another. There are so many commands that apply to the body of Christ that we are in disobedience to those commands if we are not living together.
Homeschool Insights is sponsored by CTC Math. If you're looking for a great online math program, visit ctcmath.com and try it for free. For more great homeschool inspiration and resources, listen to the Schoolhouse Rocked podcast every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday.